Good morning, students. We are going to start with the chapter New Political Formations. That is chapter number 10 in your history textbook. Okay. Now, we are going to first and foremost see that which dynasty was ruling over India at that time. The Mughals were ruling over India, right? Okay. So let's see now what happened after Aurangzeb's during Aurangzeb's time and later after his death. Okay, so you'll see that once upon a time the Mughal Empire was mighty empire. Again, I'm using the word empire and not a kingdom because the territory was very huge. All right. Okay. So we are going to see what has happened now by 1707. First and foremost, Aurangzeb, as you all know, was the last Mughal emperor who was the most powerful Mughal emperor. After that, there were Mughal emperors, but unfortunately, they were not as powerful as Aurangzeb. Now, basically, we'll first see the background as to why they were not as powerful as Aurangzeb. Okay, all of you know, you have studied in your lower classes in history that Aurangzeb was constantly at war with Shivaji and later Sambhaji. So he was constantly on war with the Deccan area in order to get the Deccan area. Okay, so that was one issue. And second issue was British had actually had their stronghold in the eastern part of India, that was Bengal. Okay, by that time. So these were the two major things that actually changed the course of history in the later part of 18th century. Okay. Now, first and foremost, you have to remember that what was the problem? The problem was that if you see, I have actually highlighted a few sentences over here for your reference. Okay, the first reason, okay, why the Mughal empire came to an end, why it started deteriorating day by day or declining day by day, is because Emperor Aurangzeb had depleted the military and financial resources of his empire by fighting a long war in the Deccan. So first and foremost, his long battle in the Deccan had emptied the state treasury. He had spent a lot of amount of money on the war expenditure. Okay, and constantly, now when he was constantly fighting wars there, he was actually in the Deccan and he did not pay much attention to the administration in the Delhi. He thought that his governors and provincial administrators would do that for him. But what happens when the emperor is away? The ministers and the provincial administrators, the mansabdars, the jagirdars, they all started taking advantage of it, and slowly, they started proclaiming their independence. So the second reason was the efficiency of the imperial administration was broken down. Why? Why was the efficiency broken down? Because emperor himself was not present in Delhi. Okay, so it was very difficult for him to keep a check on the functioning of his mansabdars. So what happened? The mansabdars or subadars, faujdars, they also took advantage of emperor's absence and started controlling the revenue and military administration as if they themselves were only in charge of it. Okay, so earlier these mansabdars, they used to collect the revenue and then submit it to the king. But now what happened? They started keeping it for themselves. The periodic remission of revenue to the capital declined. They did not give it to the king. They started keeping it for themselves. So, okay, now because of this, what happened? These zamindars and the mansabdars who were responsible for collecting the taxes, they wanted to collect maximum money that can be possible from the people. So already Aurangzeb had increased the revenue because he wanted to meet the war expenditure in Deccan. Now these provincial administrators, they further started increasing the revenue. Now what happened? Because of that, the peasants or the farmers were unhappy, and there were lot of rebellions that broke out in the north. Now what are these what is the meaning of rebellion? Any idea what is the meaning of rebellion? Like riots. They wanted to show their opposition, so they started going against the authorities. Okay, so because of all this, the later Mughals, that is after Aurangzeb's death, whoever came to power, they were not able to consolidate or set their power in the north because they had to face constant opposition from the peasants. They had to face constant opposition from their provincial governors, local chieftains, and other groups. So they had a whole set of problem. Okay, and as a result, they did not emerge to be as powerful as Aurangzeb. All right, that led to the decline of the Mughal Empire in 17 after 1707. So you can just understand that once upon a time entire India was under their control till Aurangzeb's time, but later, slowly, all this huge empire started being cut down into small pieces. That is, all the provincial administrators, they started taking control of it. Is this clear? Everyone has understood? Okay, so now I'll open the PPT and then once again we'll be back to the textbook. Okay, so you have understood the background of decline of Mughal Empire. So it led the decline of Mughal Empire in the 1700 led to the depletion of treasury. Wars became expensive. Administrative officials grew in power. Why did they grow in power? What reason did I tell you?
Not
King
there.
was not present. Okay,
Yes.
Aurangzeb was fighting battles in the Deccan.
Deccan.
So, and again, why did the Mughals raise the taxes?
Yes.
Profit. Why did they want profit? Why did they want this?
And
To
was fighting war.
correct, to meet the war expenditure. In the mid 1700s, invasions by Iran's Nadir Shah and Afghans Ahmad Shah Abdali plundered the city of Delhi, taking away a lot of its wealth. Now, already the kings were facing a lot of problem, okay, which we discussed till now. Next to that, what happened was the Iranian ruler Nadir Shah and later Afghani ruler Ahmad Shah Abdali both attacked Delhi and they took away a lot of wealth. So this added to the economic misery of the Mughal rulers. Are you understanding? So now we are going to again go back to textbook and we are going to read from page 141 and page 142. Okay. So already under severe pressure from all the sides, the empire was further weakened by competition among different group of nobles. Now even the nobles, huh, the ministers, they were also not united. Okay, each one wanted power for themselves because once you get used to power, you don't want to live without it. You want to be at that position, you want to have that authority. So even the nobles, they were divided into two groups, that is the Iranis and the Turanis. Okay, so Iranis were the nobles of the Iranian because the Mughals came from Persia, right? Iran. And the Turanis were those from Turkish descent. So those who came from Turkey divided themselves into Turanis. So Mughal emperors were puppets in the hands of these two, and this was the worst scenario. The Mughals once upon a time ruled others, but now they were puppets. You know what is a puppet? Puppet is like a small toy. You have seen puppet
Yes.
shows?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like those dolls,
Yes,
and
yes.
who controls it? There is a person behind the curtain who controls them, right?
Thread is attached to
Yes, thread is attached to it, and they control the movement of that puppet. So this was
Rajasthan.
the situation of Mughal rulers. Now, what happened? Who was controlling them? Okay, the Europeans on one side, and on one side their own people, that is the
Yes.
Afghani and the Turani provincial administrators, okay, or the
Tax
nobles.
collectors.
Their own administrators were now trying to control the rulers. So now it was a worse scenario for Mughal rulers. They were, how humiliating, isn't it? Once they were rulers, their orders were taken on head by people, but now they had to behave how others wanted them to. So Farooq Siyar, Alamgir II, and Ahmad Shah, these people were later on killed. Okay, and Shah Alam II was even blinded by his nobles. Why do you think this happened? Because everyone wanted to come to power. So if they could not easily come to power, okay, they assassinated, they killed the king. Okay, or even Shah Alam II was blinded by their nobles, and that is how they came to power. Okay, is it understood?
Yes.
So, how the situation for Mughals was changing? Okay, once upon a time, those who were mighty, powerful, rich were now reduced to rags. They were not even respected by their own ministers. Okay, now in this, amidst this time, okay, there emerged new kingdoms, and this is what we are going to study in the chapter. Okay, now what happened? See here, broadly speaking, the states of the 18th century can be divided into three overlapping groups. First group was states that were old Mughal provinces like Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. Okay, although extremely powerful and quite independent, the rulers of these states did not break their formal ties with the Mughal emperor. So these three, Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad, they were the oldest provinces that the Mughals had captured. Mughals had control over this from long time. Okay, and these people also, they did not break away from the Mughal emperor, but they wanted power in their hand. Okay, then states that had enjoyed considerable independence under the Mughals as Watan Jagirs. These included several Rajput principalities. So when the Mughal Empire had started increasing, the emperor had given the Jagirdars and the Watandars the right to collect the revenue that you had studied under the administration of Mughals, right? There was that system, there were Zabt, that is the land revenue system. Everything was set up by the, and they only appointed these officers to collect the revenue and to provide with military necessities whenever required. So these people were another set of groups who wanted now to break away from the Mughals. They wanted to have their own authority over the territories that they were given as Watans or Jagirs. And the last group included states like the control of Marathas, Sikhs, and other like the Jats, who had already seized their independence from the Mughals. So these group had already taken their independence from the Mughals after fighting wars with them for a long time. Okay, now you understood the three groups. Now let's see the old Mughal provinces. Okay, now amongst the states that were carved out of the old Mughal provinces in the 18th century were three stand out very prominently. These were Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. So these you have to keep in mind. Okay, all three states were founded by members of high Mughal nobility. So who founded them? High Mughal nobility. So who was that? Sadat Khan was for Awadh. Okay, Murshid Quli Khan for Bengal, and Asaf Jah for Hyderabad. Who were they? Who were they in the Mughal army? They were the
Commanders.
Mansabdars. They were the Mughal Mansabdars. What was the work of Mansabdars? Do you remember from administration?
Ma'am to maintain the army
To maintain the army, then
and then collecting taxes
collecting taxes.
and
Mhm.
control the area which they have given.
Correct. So Mansabdari, Mansab came from the word rank. That means what? Which rank as officer did they held in the emperor's court, and how many, the soldiers were under their control. Okay, how many soldiers were under their control? They had not founded the kingdoms; these were already there. These were already there. These Mansabdars were in charge of these provinces, and now they wanted to see what it meant was the states that carved out of the old Mughal provinces. Okay, so they now separated out because they wanted to be the new rulers. Okay, now see here, both Asaf Jah and Murshid Quli Khan held a Zat rank. Zat means the position in office in emperor's court. Okay, so they had 7,000 of army each, while Sadat Khan was 6,000. So Zat was what? Zat was um, the rank of that person and the army that he was in charge of in the court of Mughal emperor. So already they had an army now, 6,000, 7,000. Okay, you can read Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Nizam ul Mulk
Nizam ul
Asif
Mulk, Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah
Jah, the founder of Hyderabad state, uh,
was one of the
one was one of the most powerful members at the court of the Mughal
emperor.
Emperor
Hmm. Farooq
Ma'am,
Siyar. Farooq
yes,
Siyar.
Farooq Siyar.
Hmm.
He was uh,
Interested.
interested
Hmm.
first with the governorship of Awadh and later
Hmm.
even charge of the Deccan as the
Deccan,
Mughal
Deccan provinces. Hmm.
Deccan as the Mughal governor of the
Deccan provinces.
Deccan provinces during 1720
Hmm.
20. Asif Jah had
Hmm.
already gained control over its political and final, fin-
Financial administration.
financial administration.
Hmm.
Continue. I can continue, ma'am.
Yes, finish that paragraph.
Okay. Taking subsequent
Subsequent advantage.
subsequent advantage of the turmoil
Turmoil in the Deccan.
turmoil in Deccan and the competition amongst the court nobility,
Hmm.
he gathered
Hmm.
power in his hand and become the actual ruler of the region.
Okay, thank you, Shavni. So, under what circumstances did Asaf Jah became the ruler of which province? Which province did he become the ruler? He wanted to
Deccan.
control which? Which?
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. See here, the founder of Hyderabad. Okay, what was the reason why he could become the ruler? Why he could proclaim his independence? What was the reason? Hmm? See here, because of the turmoil in the Deccan and the competition amongst the court nobility. Okay, he knew that there was a problem in the Deccan. Okay, that means situation was not stable. There was political instability, and even the courts. I mean, the nobility in the Mughal court were divided. They were also not united. So, taking advantage of this, he took the power of Hyderabad under his control and carved out the state of Hyderabad. Okay, now what policies
Ma'am,
did he employ? Turmoil means a problematic situation, something which is not stable. It was a problematic situation because uh, when emperor was fighting wars in Deccan, the situation in north was in turmoil. Are you understanding? There was a problem. So Asaf Jak brought skilled soldiers and administrators from northern India who welcomed the new opportunities in the south. He appointed mansabdars and granted jagirs. So now he did what happened was he did not want to employ people from that province itself for his work because he knew that there was already a problem in Deccan. Now, if he employs people from there, they are going to further create problems for him. So, what did he do? He brought skilled soldiers and administrators from North India. Okay, and he appointed them as mansabdars and granted them jagirs. Okay, so although he was still a servant of the Mughal emperor, he ruled quite independently without seeking any direction from Delhi or facing an interview. So originally speaking, he was a part of Mughal Empire. He was working for the Mughals, but look at that his confidence. He proclaimed himself independent, and he did not pay any attention to anything that was told by the Mughal emperors. He took his own decisions. Okay, the state of Hyderabad was constantly engaged in struggle against the Marathas to the west and with independent Telugu warrior chiefs of the plateau. The ambitions of Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah to control the rich textile producing areas of Coromandel coast in the east were checked by the British, who were becoming increasingly powerful in that region. What was the third problem now he had to face? Hmm? The third problem was by the British, correct? What about the British? What did the British want to do? Last time in towns traders and craftspersons we discussed, they wanted to control the trading of any area because for them having economic control of a place was very very important. So they wanted the control of Coromandel coast because that was a rich textile producing area. So they could make huge amount of profit from there. Is it clear? So he had to face a competition from the British as well to control the area. Okay. Now the next was Awadh. Okay. Can you read Awadh part?
Awadh. Burhan ul Mulk
Mulk Sadat Khan.
Sadat Khan was appointed Subadar of
Awadh.
Awadh,
Hmm.
Awadh in 1722 and founded a state which was one of the most important to emerge out of the breakup of the Mughal Empire. Awadh was also a prosperous region controlling the rich alluvial Ganga plain and the main trade route between North India and Bengal. Burhan ul
Mulk.
Mulk was also held combined offices of
Subadar,
Subadari,
hmm,
Diwani, and Fau- Faujdari.
Faujtari. Hmm.
In other words, he was responsible for managing the political, financial, and military affairs of the province of Awadh.
Of Awadh. Okay. Now,
Of
why
Awadh.
was Awadh important? Why was Awadh important for the Mughals? Awadh was important because in which Indian state does Awadh lie?
It
Awadh
was
lies in.
in
Aw-
Ganga Plain.
so, which state of India has that Ganga plain? Any idea? It is present in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, and since it is Ganga plain means lot of fertile soil because Ganga is the longest river in India and it flows through Uttar Pradesh. So it had rich alluvial plains. Okay, how plains are formed you have studied in your sixth standard. Okay, now because from that they could get lot of agricultural produce, and also it was the main trade route between North India and Bengal. So this was a very important position, and fortunately for Buran ul Mulk, he was having a combined office of Subadari, Diwani, and Faujdari. Are you aware of the difference? Subedari or Subedar. He was the Subedar means he was in charge of the Subha of which place? Awadh. Okay, he had the Diwani rights, right to collect the revenue, and Faujdari rights. That means the right to maintain law and order, okay, control the territory with his army. All the three powers were with him, and that made it easier for him to control the territory. Okay, so now I'll once again open the PPT, and we'll see what's given there. So, you know how the empire gradually broke down into pieces. Which empire? Mughal Empire. Okay. So the nobility made their own adjustments to the Mughal zamindari system. So Mughals had actually had their own administrative system, right? But once these independent nobility, they started gaining control of these territories. They made changes as per their requirement. What gives them more revenue? They started changing that way. So, despite Mughal disapproval, the nobility collected taxes directly from the farmers instead of the officials assigned to collect them. So, what the Mughals had appointed officers to collect the taxes, but here these people, what did they do? They directly went to the farmers or peasants and started collecting the money from them. They did not want any officer in between to do the work. They themselves collected the taxes. Okay, so now why did the Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal try to do away with the Jagirdari system? So the Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal. Okay, we are going to see Bengal now. We had already seen Awadh. So now we'll go to Bengal. Okay, Bengal gradually broke away from the Mughal control under Murshid Quli Khan. So who was now the in charge of Bengal? New in charge of Bengal was Murshid Quli Khan. Okay, he was appointed as the Naib deputy to the governor of the province. Although never a formal subedar, Murshid Quli Khan very quickly seized all the power that went with that office. Like the rulers of Hyderabad and Awadh, he also commanded the revenue administration. So he knew that he should take control of the revenue administration because once the economic control is in your hand, the money is in your hand, you become more powerful as compared to anything else. Okay, in an effort to reduce Mughal influence in Bengal, he transferred all the Mughal Jagirdars to Orissa. So, what did he do? Whoever was appointed in Bengal by the Mughals as the Jagirdars, he transferred them where? To the neighboring province of neighboring state of which state? Orissa. Okay, and a major reassessment of revenue was done. Revenue was collected in cash, only in cash, with great strictness from all zamindars. As a result, many zamindars had to borrow money from the bankers and moneylenders. Those unable to pay were forced to sell their lands to larger zamindars. Now, what happened once you increase the tax? So you have to pay more. And now, what he made the rule that the tax only has to be in cash; it will not be accepted in kind. So once now the who is in charge of paying the tax? The zamindars. The zamindars were in charge of paying the tax to the Mughal court. Correct. Now here who was the head to whom they will submit the revenue now? Was
Uh,
it the Mughals? No, it was
Adat Khan.
Murshid Quli Khan.
Murshid Quli.
It was Murshid Quli Khan. So
And
as a result, when the zamindars were not able to pay the money, what did they have to do? They have to give out the money from their own pockets to fulfill that revenue requirement. Now, as a result, they were forced to sell their land, and there was a total chaos. People were quite unhappy. The formation of the regional state in 18th century Bengal therefore led to considerable change among the zamindars. The close connection between the state and the bankers, noticeable in Hyderabad and Awadh, as well was evidence under the rule of Ali Vardi Khan. His reign, the bank. 1 minute. Yeah, during his reign, the banking house of Jagat Seth became extremely popular. Remember reading this name in the previous chapter? Jagat Seth? He was a well known merchant. Okay.
yes,
Yes. So there was a considerable change in the. So if we take a bird's eye view, we can detect three common features among these states. First, though many of the larger states were established by erstwhile Mughal nobles, they were highly suspicious of some of the administrative systems that they had inherited in particular. So what they were not happy with the existing Mughal systems, so they decided to change. Okay, so because of this, they controlled many places economically and politically. So, thus, they became rulers of their own independent states. Which were those states that we had seen? One was Hyderabad, second was what was the policy adopted by Asaf Jah to strengthen his position? What was the policy of Asaf Jah? He took advantage of the turmoil in Deccan, right? And he ruled independently without seeking any, he did not pay any attention to any orders given from the emperor. He made his own policies. Do you remember that? We read that.
yes, ma'am.
Yes. What were the offices held by Sadat Khan? Sadat Khan was the, yes, he was the Subedar of Awadh, and later he also held the combined offices of what? Subedari, Faujdari, and Diwani. Good. And why did the Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal try to do away with the Jagirdari system? Yes, so he already knew that after the decline of Mughal Empire, their own Jagirdars were not at all showing any loyalty to the Mughals. So he knew they were corrupt. Okay, he did not want such people in his kingdom. He did not want them to cheat on him. So basically, he decided that instead of having such corrupt and cheated people in his place, in his kingdom, he is going to remove them and appoint his own people. From which province? From which province did he appoint his own people? See here, he transferred all Mughal Jagirdars to Orissa and ordered a major reassessment. So these were the changes that he made. Okay, did you see here? Can you see here?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is the
Yes,
answer.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, fine. So clear all the three answers that you're supposed to answer. Do you know where you're going to get it in the textbook? Yes. So I will stop for the day. Bye bye. Have a great day. Thank you for being such wonderful students.
If you like our videos, do share them and subscribe to our channel. If you want awesome quizzes, write to us. Keep watching and keep learning with Walnut.